like grabbing onto the old shit and pushing on the brake, like, you know what I mean, and driving with him, that's trauma. So that means that that person that is so freaked out by that shock split during that accident. And so now there's some people who act a different way or behave a different way every time they get in a car, every time they hear a loud car noise, it flips them into trigger code. There's trigger codes like colors. You can trigger people with color patterns. You can trigger people with, and so many people hear that word trigger. And again, use it in a way that doesn't make sense. When you're triggered by something, your PTSD will spark and it will send you to spiraling. Again, being so upset at yourself that you can't pull yourself out of a depression. Not knowing how you got to this zone where you feel like you can't pull yourself out of anger, of depression, of so many things. Do you know what I'm talking about? Those are trigger codes. So people use that, I'm triggered, and don't even understand that. There's some people who just have never had family. And being lonely for a very long time caused them to have to grow up too fast. You know that phrase? That means DID. Everybody uses that phrase and they don't know what that means. As a kid, if you were 8 years old and you had to fend for yourself, you had to make your own food, you had to be your own parent, and you had to do that up until the age that you were 16 or 17 years old, you have DID. And it's no telling exactly how many, because what had to happen is you had to go somewhere and you had to basically drown that little kid to become an adult as a kid. Splitting. It's disassociating. Have you ever been driving somewhere and you're like, I think I zoned out, I don't even know how I got here. Yeah? Disassociating. There's 3 different types of dissociative identity disorder. You might want to look them up. There's 3 different types. There's amnesia, there's DID, and then there's like, and the only one, but I can't exactly remember. But there's 3 types of DID. And everybody has that spectrum of DID. It just depends on where you land with trauma. So there's some people who are like, I'm fine, I'm absolutely fine, but I didn't have a mom growing up. I'm fine, but I didn't have a father growing up. I'm fine, but I didn't have any friends. I was lonely at school. I was bullied a lot. So that hard shell that you have to grow to get to school, that's DID. You walk in, you sit down as this person, but you walk in as this person. Do you know what I mean? And then when you leave, you're back to this person. That's not just creating an exterior barrier. That's switching your personalities so you can cope with what's going on. It's a coping mechanism. Hence, trauma. Hence, trauma response. Make sense? It's a lot. That's why I say it's a lot. That trafficking is not the worst part. Being locked in a room with somebody, people turning on lights to keep heat lamps on you so you suffocate while somebody's on top of you, that's not the worst part. That's not the worst part of lashing somebody. Sorry for y'all. People think that sometimes that like the sex part is the worst part. It's the easiest part to get through. Absolutely easy. I can deal with that. I can do it again. That's why we signed up to get on. Reasons why we signed up to get on is in order. But the one reason is because there's so many of us on this contract, on this blueprint. And when we go back, there's some of us for very little. And so it's color and play. Mom takes us to the park. We actually go to the park. We have real toys now. I love stuffed animals. And the thing is because of what's happened, I can't go back. There's some people who want, you know, they are child in me. You know, people are like, that child in me hasn't grown yet. That child in me hasn't lived yet. Oh, you just helped that child in me. You know, that child has not grown yet. That child is still stuck right there. So those moments where you hold someone where they're at, you know, it can be a grown-ass man. And they can be in the military. And they were abused by their parents at 12 years old, 13 years old. So they continue to act like that 12, 13-year-old little boy. sometimes. And you're confused, and you're lost, and you're like, why are you acting like this? I know you're better than this, you're a grown-ass man, you got some sense. What is going on? That child doesn't have that sense that grown man has. There's some people in relationships with people that have DID. Married to people who have DID. And you're not married to the same person that you met. That makes sense? So you have issues like somebody starts cheating. And they say, I don't love you anymore. And you're like, right? We've been married for 30 years. Now all of a sudden you don't know me. All of a sudden you don't love me anymore. All of a sudden I'm not enough. No. They're trying to get you. And they don't remember you. They don't know you. They know where they stopped at. That makes sense? Help me. I'm sorry.
Now you can tell you a little bit about my experience. It was early on in one of the new altars, and the mother had come up, and she was about 13 years old.
Don't mind me.
I knew she had DID, I knew she had altars. I didn't know to the extent. I thought it was just DID. I didn't know anything about MK Ultra. And it was about 3 o'clock in the morning, and this new altar starts sketching a quadrant of the blueprint and wrote out a mathematical equation to the blueprint, and it scared the shit out of me. The hair stood up on the back of my neck. I knew we were dealing with something like, I had no idea what it was because it was too much. She just sketched this shit out, and it was mathematically sound. She didn't have an education like that. She was in continuation school trying to finish her credits to graduate, and I just knew that was impossible. She would say weird things like, I'm going to serve my country, I have to serve my country. Like, what? Who says that? You know, that's only a military thing, but you're a kid. Like, it was so many weird things. From there, on these blueprints, she said the altar is very much to take it even further. Why it's so messed up. So you have altars in each of these quadrants. They put booby traps and bombs. They program them into place. So if you try to break the programming, it'll set up a booby trap or it'll set up a bomb. It can be in the form of a black plague, where they get so sick, where they can die, where they can... Suicide programming, just all kinds of things to protect that programming so nobody else can mess with it.
Detaching themselves, like some people call that running, like, oh, they don't want to deal with things right now, so they're kind of running from the problem. No, it's a booby trap. So some people don't want to deal with things. Or have you ever been in a relationship with somebody where they're like, I don't want to talk about it? And you're like, you usually talk to me about everything. What just happened? Have you ever been in that type of situation where you're like, your full character just switched up? It's probably because you had a good talk with them prior to it. And you may have had a conversation with them, and for men, it's easier to open up, right? For men, if they open up about sexual abuse or some type of trauma, maybe they've been physically abused so bad by their family that they may have seen something, like they may have seen someone getting abused, they may have seen someone getting hit, and it restored all of that. It's a bomb. It's a booby trap.
So when you logically try to think about how are we going to undo this, or how are we going to fix this, how are we going to remove this, it's impossible. There's so many times I was so overwhelmed, like, what are we even going to do? And you guys came out here, and we were really heavy on church in here. We spent half the time worshiping God, but there's a reason, because that's the only reason we made it this far. If I had all the most brilliant minds, the most brilliant computers, I wouldn't be able to undo the program. There is only one hat for the programming, and that's unconditional love.